Hello everyone, my name is Woodman and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will talk about using vulnerability as your strength to connect with people. This is important because we do not always have to see vulnerability as something that will destroy our chances of building connections with someone, but rather it can give us a chance to be more authentic with someone and relate to them. Consider the difference between the following statements. I worked really hard and got into private equity versus I worked hard, got into private equity, and then I discovered I did not like the actual work. Or I went to the event, followed a strategy, and came out with 2 great contacts. Versus I went to the event, felt awkward, and left without talking to anyone new. Who would you rather speak to? The first lines are respectable, but lifeless. The second ones are intriguing, where you could imagine that happening to you and you would wonder what you could do. As a listener, you are processing the setback, yet you know that was not the end of the road. They are here talking to you. They look professional. Something else happened to get that person here. You want to know what they have learned, and often that person must be a pretty strong person to keep going and then share this with you. Showing vulnerability is not humble bragging, and it is not false modesty deployed to be socially accepted. It is authentically sharing doubts, setbacks, disappointments, uncertainties, and all the things that make us less perfect but more human. Vulnerability is a strength because showing it helps you make deeper, better connections. Being more vulnerable allows others to be vulnerable with you. After all, humans are social organisms looking for real human connections and seeking ways to make those happen. Life is complicated, and at any moment, most of us are experiencing some combination of being confident and thinking, what the heck? We are all trying to figure it out. So when you meet someone who seems real, it is a special experience because you know they will be sincere with you. Still, there are valid reasons for not showing vulnerability. The other person might respond negatively, or they might not respond at all. You can't control the outcome. For example, think of every time in your life when you liked someone and showed it and they didn't like you back. Vulnerability in a business setting is complicated because part of being businesslike is focusing on the agenda at hand. The way we dress, the way we talk, the way we start meetings and conversations. These are all signals that we are going to conform to a certain way of doing things for the purpose of aligning and getting things done. It is not clear where the line is between what will be accepted in the workplace and what won't. You will have to think about how much of your real self you can let out and how much of your real self you should be let out. Essentially, you are taking a risk by showing more vulnerability in professional settings. It is worthwhile and the rewards are great, but it is a risk. Therefore, let's take a risk-managed approach. In their book, Connect, Building Exceptional Relationships with Family, Friends, and Colleagues, David Bradford and Carolyn Robin explain that vulnerability in relationships relates in part to our position in 3 zones of being: the zone of comfort, the zone of danger, and the zone of learning. The zone of comfort is where you don't have to think twice before saying or doing something. The zone of danger is when saying or doing something is too scary or risky for you. The zone of learning is where you are willing to face discomfort and you take a minor risk to see what happens. You get to the zone of learning by taking what they call the 15% risk. When you take a 15% risk, you are stretching yourself to try something out of your comfort zone, but not doing something that will make you feel debilitated if the result does not hit the mark. To arrive at your zone of learning, think of something scary and then do something less scary. Or alternatively, think of something easy and then do something harder. Consider these examples. Situation 1, you want to talk to your imposing boss about your career. For zone of comfort, you say hello to your boss at a company function and say your job has started off well. For zone of danger, you ask your boss for a half-hour meeting to share your long-term career goals. For zone of learning, you and a colleague jointly invite your boss to lunch in the coming weeks. Situation 2, your buddy seems upset about something. For zone of comfort, you wait to see if he brings anything up. For zone of danger, you say, it's clear that you are upset about something. Tell me what's going on. Maybe I can help. For zone of learning, you say, how about we go shoot some hoops? Based on these examples, the idea is to get to the zone of learning where you are stretching yourself and possibly the other person, but not taking on a bigger risk than you can handle. You stretch by taking 15% risk, be 50% more assertive, be 15% more honest, be 15% more uncomfortable. Things may go well, or the other person may not engage. Or they may have a negative reaction, but it won't be so negative that you can't recover. Take a baby step in the relationship, but take a step nonetheless. All in all, when you introduce vulnerability to a conversation or relationship, you are not just opening yourself up. You are inviting the other person to do the same. You are sharing yourself, but you are also saying, hey, let's try this out. Here are 5 practical ways you can do this. 1, mix personal and professional topics. In general, we regard the professional realm as a place where we are business-like and focus on business matters. We have agendas, decks, and bullet points. We center on competence. I can do this. I bring this value. You can rely on me for that. Here are the next steps, etc. Yet we are still human beings. A simple way to leave this all work focus is to start sharing details about your personal life. This can include your family, what you do outside of work, the weather, upcoming plans and goals, shows you are watching, books you are reading, and the things that you like and dislike, any achievements and setbacks, etc. When you share personal details, other people take the cue to do the same. You naturally find common interests and deeper emotional connections. 2, work towards next level listening. Most people think they are good listeners already, but you can get better. In deep listening, you are turning the spotlight on the other person and keeping your attention on them, not on yourself. There is a continuum of listening, ranging from non-listening to deep listening. For non-listening, this is when you are pretending to listen but are distracted or doing something else. For semi-listening, this is when you are listening enough to identify when you can break in with your own thoughts, opinions, or answers. Typically, you are waiting for your chance to say your piece. For literal listening, you are actually listening to the words coming out of someone else's mouth and making sense of them. You are contemplating what is being said. For fuller listening, this is listening to the substance of their words and also taking in cues like body language, tone, and emotion. You notice when their expression doesn't match their words, and you track their energy. For deep listening, this is a combination of fuller listening, plus something coaches call standing on the balcony. Imagine that normal conversation interactions take place on the dance floor, but periodically you climb up the stairs to the balcony for a different view of what is happening. You are observing the dynamic rather than being caught up in it. You are noticing what is being said and what is not being said. The most powerful listening tool is active listening. Active listening is the practice of reflecting back or summarizing what the other person has said, asking them for confirmation, and then possibly asking another question that keeps them talking and exploring. Here's an example of this. A speaker can say, we went through a reorg, and I'm the one who had to communicate the reduction in force to everyone. I had 30 individual meetings telling people the company was letting them go. I barely slept for months. The listener would say, so your company went through a reorg and you were the one charged with termination meetings. It sounds like it was incredibly stressful. Is that right? The speaker will say, exactly. I don't want to ever go through that again. And the listener says, how did you manage the stress? When we actively listen, we are curious. We are trying to understand things from the point of view of the other person. Great listening is inherently non-judgmental. This is important because vulnerability looks for a safe space to hang out in. We hesitate to be vulnerable partly because we are afraid of the potential reaction. Will I be embarrassed, misunderstood, or shamed? Showing you are a good listener makes it easier for people to share. 3, acknowledge your setbacks, disappointments, and failures. Other people's success is a boring topic. People who are presented as successful, either by themselves or others, have a shiny quality. There's nothing to grab onto. You might learn something from them, but do you really connect with them? After all, if they only talk about their success, they give an impression that they are perfect, and we tend not to question anything that seems perfect to us. It contrasts when you know someone has faced struggles, You are more likely to see them as a real person who might understand your own mix of experiences. To be clear, introducing vulnerability is not exactly the same as sharing every negative thing you are experiencing. Introducing vulnerability in professional settings is providing a balanced view of your life as it actually is. This isn't the gloss up shiny version, and it's not the my life sucks version. When you talk about yourself and admit vulnerability, you're including some things from the not so positive column as well as the positive one. You could share your setbacks in a way that is factual, not performative, by just stating the things that happen, such as, I got laid off, we didn't get the deal, the relationship did not work out, etc. When people hear statements like these, they feel sympathy and they probably also wonder how they would deal with the same situation. Many people will respond with compassion, respect, and appropriate curiosity, which means trying to sense what you want to talk about, not what they personally are curious about. 4, be open about uncertainty and lack of resolution. Much of the time when you are connecting with other people, you won't have things all wrapped up. There will be open questions, loose ends, uncertainties, etc. Everyone is familiar with the uncertainties of life, so when you can communicate them coherently, you demonstrate vulnerability and groundedness. Here are some examples of how you can be open about uncertainty. I am not especially happy with how things are in my relationship, but I am also not ready to leave. I have a son who did a lot of activities such as soccer, basketball, swimming, and dance, but he did not like any of them. He is a very active child, so I am still searching around for something that might stick with him. It is a bit of a mystery. Remember, you do not always have to fall into the pressure of immediately getting it done and telling someone to answer. Uncertainty and irresolution happen to us, and we need to be transparent about those things affecting us. 5, hold something painful or hard for the other person. Accepting vulnerability from others does not mean trying to fix anything. It means being there with them. You're holding a space, not solving a problem. To do this well, you have to manage your own anxiety and discomfort. When someone shares a vulnerability, like a hard moment, a sad experience, a trembling uncertainty, the immediate impulse of many people is to try to soothe them, to make them feel better, to lessen the bad feeling and share some happiness. There is an element of helping here, but also an element of self-protection. It is not easy to be around someone else's pain. If you use soothing words, are you soothing the other person, or are you protecting yourself from discomfort or anxiety or guilt? If someone says, I feel like no one values me here, and your response is, I'm sorry you feel that way, we totally value you, you are short-circuiting their feelings. You're not actually allowing the person to be vulnerable, and you are not being vulnerable yourself. You're getting yourself off the hook, and you're hoping that by doing so, the person's negative feelings go away. Of course, people deal with many, many things that are beyond your quick fixes. They deal with frustrations in achieving a goal, job or career problems, relationship problems, issues or worries about children or family, financial problems, or just a bad day or month or year. If someone shares these with you, they are expressing vulnerability. If they want help or your advice, they will probably ask you directly. If they don't ask, it is probably not your job to offer it. Your job is to just be with them and show that you hear them. Some responses you could say are, I'm sorry that happened. That sucks. That's tough. You're going through a lot, etc. Remember, don't worry about saying something reassuring to them, but just focus on being there for them. In fact, when someone shows vulnerability, your first and foremost task is just to be with them because that is what they truly want. Time is love, so is presence. In conclusion, vulnerability is not a weakness that holds you back. It is a strength that moves you closer to others. When you choose to share honestly, listen deeply, acknowledge setbacks, be transparent about uncertainties, and hold space for others, you create relationships that are real, resilient, and meaningful. By taking small, thoughtful risks in the zone of learning, you don't just grow personally, you invite others to grow with you. All in all, connection is what makes both our personal and professional lives truly fulfilling. And we can use vulnerability to strengthen our connections with people. We have finished talking about how to create connections. In the next video, we will proceed into talking about how to maintain connections by going over how to manage your weak tie network. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the changemaker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.